And welcome back. This is Power BI Intro Part 3. And if you've done Part 1 and Part 2, your dashboard is starting to look a little bit like that. So if you remember, in order to put this table in, we clicked on the manufacturer first, and because it was text, it automatically came in. Now, what I'd like to do is like to have another table underneath showing a breakdown on the countries. Now, remember, if I click country, by default, the map will go in. We don't want a map, we want a table. So we'll do it a different way. So instead of selecting the data first, make sure that you're not on either of these two. So in other words, you're in a white space here and go straight to selecting a table. Now, the table is within the visualizations. It's the second column along and down there. So fifth down. There we go. And it's just a blank table. So now, if I go in and select country, instead of the default of creating a map, it'll create a table. And we'll add the sales into the country as well. There we go. Fair bit in there, but that's all the countries broken down with their total sales. I'm just going to make that slightly bigger for you so you can see what's going on. Now, one of the powerful things about Power BI is this isn't just a static report. If I go into the countries and let's say I want to look at Australia, and if I click on Australia, everything else sorts itself out. You'll see, you may be able to see on mine, you might see on yours, that actually the highlighted bit is minimal there, and we'll fix that later on. But within here, that's a breakdown of the various manufacturers within Australia. And then to remove this visual filter that we've put on, you just click on Australia again, and everything returns. We can look at Germany. Likewise, Germany's got a little bit more down there, as you can see, and these all here refer to Germany. Click back on Germany again, it goes back. When we build these reports up, the person you're sending them to, whether it's your boss, your customer, your client, you're not having to send them any data. This whole report here has got everything within it that they need to go in and identify any bits they want, their KPIs and so on. However, at the moment, it doesn't look very good, does it? So that's what we're going to do just now. I'm going to click off here. At the moment, I haven't got any of my 3 visualizations highlighted. And if I go over here to visualizations, this is the button we've been working on, the build visual. But along to the right there, you've got format. And because I haven't highlighted any of my visuals at the moment, when I go into format, that gives me the option to change the page itself, the background. But we're going to do that later on. To start with, we're going to reformat some of the actual visualizations themselves. So if I go to, say, this one, highlight this table with the countries, and you'll see this changes. So this is what we've been working on, the build your visuals. We're happy with that. We're going to leave that as it is. And then I'm going to go across one to format your visual. And we've got so many different options within here. The options for formatting are broken, if you like, into 2. You've got your visual itself, and then you've got general. I'm going to go through general first. Properties. Now, properties is where you can specify the exact height and width, but actually there's a tidier way of making everything look consistent. I'll show you in a wee minute. Remember, we've said from the very beginning that when we produce advertising, reports, visuals, we're not usually just doing it for ourselves. We've got a customer in mind. We've got an end user in mind. And at the moment, if that end user looks at this, some of profit and some of sales by manufacturer doesn't really make sense. And it's a bit messy and so on. So this is where we tidy things up. So we can force it to be an exact size. We'll leave that for just now, or position. And as you go through each of these, you pop them back up again, and there we go. So on here, within general, you've also got title, which by default on a table's off. We can put it on if we want. And then you've got the option to add a title. And we're not going to add a title that looks like that. What we're going to look at is sales by country. It makes more sense. Now, I suppose it's subjective, but I was always brought up with any sort of visualization, particularly within Excel, that a title should have a capital at the beginning of each word. So long as it's consistent across the piece, that's fine, but I would suggest that's probably the best way of doing it. We've got our, yeah, we can change, at the moment, the default font down and the size, we can change the size, we can change the background color and text or the horizontal alignment. And then effects. Effects are sort of the background itself for the visual. But one thing I would suggest getting into the habit of doing, put the border on. If I click off that, you'll see what I've done. That's that one there. You've got this little visual border around. Now I use these for everything. If I've got half a dozen visuals on a report page, it just looks so much tidier with a border around. And I would also suggest that if you're doing it to one, make sure you do it to them all. So highlight that again, back to format, general, effects. And I also tend to put the shadow on. You can go in and you can change the, let's see, on the border there, you can change the thickness and so on. You can change the amount and the direction of the shadow. I tend to leave the two on as default because then if I put a border and a shadow on all the other visuals, it'll be identical. Remember, we're not really selling a report. We're selling the information within a report. If selling is the right word, we're promoting. We want to get that information across. So we want everything to look consistent across. We've got all sorts of other bits within here on the actual general. And then when we go into visual, that's where the presets and the style and so on are on the actual visual itself. So we've got under presets, you've got the default. And then you've got other kind of preset ones here. I'll just click through a few. You just have a wee play with them and see what you think. It's a minimal one, bold header. It's quite nice, comes out a bit nicer. Alternating rows, and so on. So these are all the presets. And again, sometimes the presets, if you don't have your own, say, company colors, the presets are quite good. You pick one, add it to all of them, and you've got a nice consistent report. But we can go through further. Let's go into grids. We've got the horizontal grid lines are on by default. We've got the color at the moment. We'll make that whatever you like. Just pick a few colors. They're the horizontal ones. You can increase or decrease the width on that. Vertical grid lines by default are off, so we can put them on. I tend to close these back down as I'm working down the list. So what was that? So we'll go with something hideous. There we go. Increase the size of that as well. Close that down. You can choose where you want the border to be. It's just up top bottom. There we go. Close that down. We can then go through and change the actual values. As it is on this one, they're fairly straightforward to read. Sometimes they come in, they're too small, too big. You want everything to fit. So we go in and muck around with them. You can even, where we go, specific columns, you can say just apply these settings to one of these columns. So you can say just make country different text color, different background color, and so on. What to do is have a little play through that, change a few things. What we do is I'm going to change the background of that. So background, because it's not the visuals, under general effects, and I'm going to make it. And now I'm deliberately picking some fairly horrendous things here. Don't worry, it's just to show you what you can do. And then what I would do is put that in there. That's fairly horrible, but you get the idea. We can also, as soon as you click on the chart, you get different options within format. You've got X and Y axis at the moment are on. Under general, this is the first thing I'm going to change, title. Power BI, and if anybody's used things like pivot tables and so on within Excel, they tend to pick these, they make the titles up and it doesn't actually make sense. So manufacturer or profit and sales by manufacturer would make more sense than sum of. So you just go in under title. Oh, hang on. Profit and sales by manufacturer. There we go. Makes more sense. Also, if you're going to have things left aligned on one visual, make sure they're left aligned on the other. If you want to have them centered on each, that's fine, but it's just about consistency and so on. We can change the text color and so on here. That's the title itself. Effects, we'll stick our visual border and shadow on, give it a little bit more consistency with the other one. Backgrounds, let's pick again something horrendous. Yes, probably not that. You just play around and pick something a bit easier to see, just about. And you'll notice as well, this legend here, which tells us what the different colour blues are. Some of profit, some of sales. It is the sum of the profit and the sum of the sales, but the more expressive way of putting it would be total profit, total sales, probably make more sense. So we can do that. So this is part of the visual rather than the general. So we're in the visual. We've got x-axis and y-axis, so we can open up both. Black, maybe a bit better with a white text, do you think? There we go. Not going to pop out. Well, close that down, and then title, we're going to change. So instead of title text auto, we'll have the x-axis. Remember, Y to the sky, X is the other one, if that makes sense. So the x-axis title is manufacturer. We can leave that one, that makes sense. The y-axis title there, sum of profit and sales. We'll just call that profit and sales. Oh, spelled profit wrong. Sure you noticed that. There we go. And this legend here. So we'll lose that. We'll go down to legend and we'll change the text title to total profit. Is it going to allow me to do it within here? Oh, yeah, total profit. Stroke sales. So that's giving us a title on the legend if we want, and then we could actually lose that. Or if we leave that off, so we don't have a title, where's the, there we go. Let's see that. The other way of changing these is if we go back to where we were adding data to the visual, we've got sum of profit, sum of sales. This is a nicer way of doing it as well. If you right click on there, you've got rename for this visual. So instead of sum of profit, we'll just write total profit. And we'll do the same for the other one. Sales. Starting to make a bit more sense now. We can also, at the moment, we don't know how much a datum company there's made. So within the visual itself, we've got, where's data labels? Close all that down. We want the data labels down here. If I put on, that gives us them. They're a bit big. So while we're in there, we can say data level series on, values, and we can make it a bit weird so we can see them. Now, unlike with Excel, where I would expect to have all the labels and so on there, in this case, it's looking a bit messy. But if I hover over any of them, it tells me exactly what it is. So it's a choice if you like. If you want to show all the data on there, it's looking a bit messy. We'll take them back off. There we go, it's a bit tidier. What to do is just have a little play, try a few different formatting and so on. And obviously, I would suggest that is not very pretty or very easy to read, but that's kind of not the point. The idea is just to get a hang of the different formatting and so on within there, finding things within where they are. So remember on visualizations, whichever one you're on, the first one is how you build the visualization itself. The next one is how to format it, whether it's just the general, the background and so on, or whether it's the individual columns, bars, text and so on within there. Okay, so have a little go with that about formatting. we'll stop for that one for just now, and I'll pop back in a wee minute. Thank you.